The end of the year is all about self-reflection. So what I wanted to do with you is to take a look back at my 2021 makeup favorites and discuss whether or not they are still favorites or products I would use. And if I don't use them, what am I using now? What's up, Victoria? It's Victoria. If you are new to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe. We spend a lot of time reflecting on makeup purchases on this channel and try to do that to make better purchases in the future. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in seeing more of, hit the subscribe button. And to catch the vibe, I've been doing Messmas, which means I've posted almost every day since the beginning of the month. And I'm going to also post up until Christmas Day. Oh, that'll be my last post of the year. So check it all out. I will also have a pinned comment. Please check that out to support people who need your help right now. I'm on Patreon and I have channel memberships. Those are in the description box if you're into that sort of thing. Let's jump into it. I haven't taken like a deep dive look at what my favorites were this year, but there is important context to the year 2021. That was the first year I really invested time into this channel. I did a 6-month no-buy and I kept track of that, and I did a lot of content that year, and that was the big year. I was noticed by Hannah Louise Post, and it was just like, you know, there was a lot of things that happened that year that were really important to where we are today. I also had quit Sephora, so a lot of what my makeup is going to be mentioned in this video, I am going to have to assume was either gratis or stuff I bought before I ever really was doing YouTube with any kind of seriousness. So I'm very interested to see what I say. I'm also interested into like what kinds of categories we're going to get into, because I just am very invested in a different part of makeup right now. So this will be very interesting, I think. I'm just gonna follow my lead and go from the start to the bottom of this list. The first thing I have listed is the Chantecaille Perfect Blur Finishing Powder. And I am still working on the same powder, like not a new compact of that powder. I'm still working on that very powder that I mentioned in that video. It's been through so much with me. We are now on our 4th year together. I actually have a backup of it because I thought I was gonna finish it this year. I keep proceeding through every year as if it is gonna be the last year finishing up that powder, but it is the powder that never quits for me. It's a very expensive powder and I'm really getting like $80 worth out of it. I still really love this powder. I feel as though complexion products I've been using in more recent time have been meeting the blur where I need it. So I don't feel like I need this powder as much, as which also is probably why I use it a lot less than I probably did at that time. Not only that, I review complexion products, try complexion products, and whenever I'm testing complexion products, I tend not to use this product because it does affect the finish of the product that I'm putting on my face. And so if I'm trying a new complexion product, I need to see what it does on its own before putting other things on top of it. So this powder can be overlooked a little bit. In my makeup collection, I still think of it fondly, and I still have the backup of it, which I keep. Like, I'm waiting for the day that I finish this one to move on to that one. Like, there will come a time, there will come a day, and I will always want to have it handy. But yeah, it's not that it's irrelevant. Like, if I'm doing my makeup for myself and not testing new stuff and not needing to catch the vibe, I will use it. I used it today because I was getting ready, like this, just I was getting ready for camera. More powder does tend to look better on camera than less powder, so more is more, but I also use a lot of powders. I use a lot of different powders in very specific places. So this is still a favorite of mine, but I don't think I would like, I guess, say that anymore. Like it's not something that feels like mandatory. The people who were here that know that I use it probably just assume that I still use it, but like I very rarely like feature it in videos anymore either, but it's still there. It's still kicking around. The next thing I talked about was the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, and this was my primer of choice for a while. I finished that tub of it, and around the holidays, Bobbi Brown sells like a jumbo size of it, and I was using that jumbo tub for a long time, and then I think more stuff started coming into my life, my channel, my vibe, like how this all kind of functions as like a business started to change in that time. I came across the Victoria Beckham Cell Rejuvenating Priming Moisturizer, which I just used the last bit of that juice today, which has been reformulated. Anyway, I can't talk about that. Anyway, the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base is a beautiful product and something I would return to. I gave the rest of that bottle to Tiff, the one I had, the jumbo one, and so they continue to work on that, and when they use it up, I'm sure I will just give them another primer from my drawer. Really lovely product. I just found stuff that I liked a little bit more, but it's also not something I wouldn't go back to. The YSL Touche Eclait All Over Brightening Concealer Pen. I haven't used this product in a while, but I remember having a little bit of a glimmer to it. Not like a super highlighted, but it was kind of like a dewier under eye, but it only really kind of served the purpose to brighten. I wouldn't have called it a concealer today. It just kind of just like just a little bit, added a little bit of life to the under eyes. Currently I'm using the Victoria Beckham concealer. Well, not on today's look, but that is like a product that I use a ton and it's in a similar format. But I do think I like the Victoria Beckham one better now. I also remember the shades being a little bit weird in this. Like they weren't quite right for me. Like I didn't have a perfect one. I think the one I was using was the shade 0, and I think it still pulled a little bit warm and a little bit dark on me. Such is the problem with high-end concealers. It's like, what are we doing? What are these colors? No, I don't think I would buy that again. I would, like, you know, I think it's one of those things I would happily try again if it crossed my path. But I think it did cross my path again at some point, and I just kind of like, but I don't know what concealer I would have been using up at that time, because it would have been pre-Victoria Beckham. So, because I feel like my friend Lena gave me some of her rejects from Gratis, but this was something I got multiple times in Gratis. That was probably also why I used it. Ooh, okay, the Laniege Glowy Makeup Serum. This bottle might still be kicking around in this house. Not in my collection, but it might be one of Tiff's primers, but I could be wrong about that. That's kind of old. I should tell them. I should tell them if they still have that. Or maybe I bought a new one. Maybe I did buy a second one. I think I re-upped on it. I could be wrong about that too. I have no idea. Anyway, I think they still make this product. I think like the last time I was in a Sephora, I like was in the Laneige section and I was surprised to see it there. This is a beautiful glowy primer. It makes your skin look really gorgeous and stunning. I don't feel like it does a lot of hydrating and a lot of moisturizing, which is I think what most people who are looking for that dewier finish would want. Not just something that kind of makes their face a little bit more slick. They're looking for like plumping. But I remember really liking it. And it was something that I had from Gratis. If you don't know what Gratis is, maybe I should explain this. Gratis is like when you work, I think like even not even in the makeup industry, Gratis is a thing. But like in the beauty industry, this is my direct experience with it and skincare and stuff. Gratis is stuff that brands that sell at your store give to you just as samples or things to try so that whenever you use it, you can explain to the customer how it works and how it performs. And like, you know, it's kind of like a buttering up of the sales associates to be like, well, one, we'll pay you a little bit less because we're going to give you free stuff. But then also on top of that, it's for you to be able to talk about on the sales floor. So I got this in Gratis. I wouldn't have bought this. And I think it was kicking around in my collection for a while. And this is when I was really into dewy makeup. Like I was really into glass skin. I still have a lot of glow, I think, to my skin, but it's not as like wet looking as it once was. And I kind of have moved away from that. But I think I would still like this primer. It kind of like aligns with like how I still like to do my makeup, how I like my skin to look before I put on makeup. I haven't used it in quite, well, obviously I haven't. I got rid of it. I found better things like the Cell Rejuvenating Priming Moisturizer from Victoria Beckham won my heart, and it had been my dedicated primer for a couple of years. And again, it was reformulated. So we just continue and stay devastated. I was just thinking about this product the other day and I was like, I don't even know if they still make it. So Givenchy had the Teint Couture City Balm Anti-Pollution SPF 25. This product was maybe like my first exploration and appreciation for complexion products that had less coverage. If you weren't here in 2021, Messmas that year coincided with a project. A lot of people who are watching at the time conflate the two, but Messmas is just the act of posting every day in December for me and how I think about it. Using all of my products by 2022 was a separate project that just I was using Messmas as a motivator for. What I was trying to do was to use all of my products one time from December 1st to December 31st. I didn't manage to do that, by the way. Some categories I got to cycle through a couple of times, but there were also a couple of categories where I didn't get to cycle through. I feel like when I was doing Messmas, I really used that and then I like fell in love with it. But I think maybe I was using it a little bit more before that Messmas and that project. I think I liked that product a lot when I worked on the sales floor. I don't know if I would like it now, but I think a lot of the products that I use to this day have a very similar vibe to that. The problem with that product in particular was their shade range was awful. Like even for Givenchy, like everything kind of like jumped around and the undertones didn't make a ton of sense. And there's SPF in it, which I don't really care for SPF in my complexion products anymore. I think I would have made less of a stink about that at that time. Current day modern me does make a little bit of a stink about it. But I feel like my Surratt Dewdrop foundation is like a very similar equivalent product to this. And that's my favorite foundation. Also the Victoria Beckham foundation drops. The Vive complexion balm I think is the the Vive Skin Nova complexion balm. This I think is the most similar product I have right now to that product. And also the shade range is also kind of weird, but this really works for me. I love this kind of product. It's amazing. So while I don't use this one anymore, and I'm not even sure if Givenchy even still makes it, it was incredible. Like, it was really good. I really liked it. But it also led me to, I think, things that are also even better performing. Longtime viewers will not be surprised by this one. And it still is my favorite foundation of all time to this day. It's the Surratt Dewdrop foundation. Now, I have received Surratt PR since this. I was not receiving Surratt PR whenever I did this video. I think my love for this foundation and repetitive tagging on Instagram is what got them to notice me and send me PR. But the Surratt Dewdrop foundation in the shade 1.5 is my favorite foundation to this day. It is just incredible. It blurs my skin a little bit, light coverage, soft blur. It's like everything. I still use it to this day. I've bought it before. I've gotten it in PR. I've also bought it since I've gotten it in PR. It's still my favorite foundation. So it's like one of those things that's like, it's kind of gone through with me through the highs and lows of content creation and receiving PR. It's still constant. I still love it. Even if Surratt doesn't send it to me, like I'm still gonna buy it. Wow, a lot of big emotions. The Tom Ford Soleil Glow Bronzer. This was a bronzer. I had like the mega one. I remember buying it on Guilt because in 2021, the first half of 2021, after I left Sephora, when I started buying makeup, I realized quickly, as how I ended up in the no buy towards the end of the year, that like I was buying too much stuff. But anyway, I was like on Guilt buying luxury makeup, and the Tom Ford line seems to be like in flux always. Like they've not landed on, I think, their final form. I was just watching Michelle Wong's Declutter, and she was talking about Tom Ford, and she seems to think, and I feel like she's going to have a better eye and feeling for this than I will, that like Tom Ford is going to wipe the slate clean with all of its products and like kind of revamp everything in the next year or two. And that might have to do with like ingredients, because I think we're going to see, I know we've been seeing a lot of reformulations. I think we're about to see even more, because there's like an ingredient that's a type of silicone that the EU is banning for environmental reasons. It's my understanding, but I don't know the name of the ingredient. But like Armani Luminous Silk just reformulated, and I think a lot of companies use that silicone in their formulas. So I think a lot of people's favorite foundations, I haven't noticed any of mine getting reformulated, but I feel that it's only gonna happen. Like I feel like that's going to happen. Anyway, this bronzer was really great. It was like, I think one of the first bronzers I think that I enjoyed enough to be like, this is a very good bronzer and I like this bronzer. It was nice and neutral. It wasn't too warm, but I got like the jumbo size on Guilt for like $75 instead of like $150 or whatever this thing cost at full price, because it was really expensive. And yeah, I used it a lot. It was my favorite bronzer for a couple of years, and then I found other bronzers. The Gucci bronzer kind of reigned supreme. That was gifted to me by a friend. She didn't like it, and then I ended up with it. And that bronzer is my favorite powder bronzer, but now I'm so into the Trixie bronzer, and I've really been into the Simi Haze bronzer, which is what I'm wearing on my skin today. I've been really enjoying that. I've kind of shifted away from this bronzer. I sent it to a friend, and I think she enjoys it. She asked me to send her some stuff, and then I also included some stuff that I hadn't decluttered on camera yet, but I had decluttered, and I sent it to her. No longer am I life, no longer my favorite, but something I think of fondly. I have a couple products from Hourglass. The first one is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Blush in the shade At Night, which is described as a brick red. If you've been keeping up with Messmas, I kind of talked about this phenomena in a video where I did like the trans tag, I forget what the name, the gender euphoria tag that Cam and Colin made. In that tag video, I talk about how my preferences in color have very much shifted, and I wear much less green, although I am wearing green today. I asked Tiff what color eyeshadow I should do, and they said, do green. And at first I was like, no, but then I was like, I think we can do it in a way that's God honoring to me now. And I also have a Royal Scandal. Oh, I don't know. This might be on here. I have a Royal Scandal on my lips. Maybe I didn't have a Royal Scandal yet. No, I think I bought that during my budget year. Anyway, I have a Royal Scandal on my lips, which is also something I haven't worn in quite some time. Wearing like reddish blushes and also blushes that are like orange. And that's not really in my oeuvre anymore. Like I don't wear a lot of those colors anymore because they can make me feel quite dyswork, because at this time in my beginning of my NB, my early onset NB-ness, here, I was very into those colors, and I did my makeup a lot differently at the time. So it's not like I won't ever wear red blush again, but it's not something that I'm going to reach for a lot. So I don't really miss this, but I do like the Hourglass blush formula. And staying in line with Hourglass, we had the Ambient Lighting Edit. I don't remember what year it would have been. Maybe it was 2020. It would have been my last year at Sephora. So I think I bought it in the year 2020, because I think for the first time ever, they didn't sell out and they actually got marked down. And then I had my Sephora discount on top of it, and I bought it at that point. I don't like these anymore. I'm very anti-face palette now. I think I was on my way to being anti-face palette at this point, but I really am now. I made a whole video about why I don't really like face palettes, and you can watch that if you want to hear more. But yeah, I wouldn't buy something like this again. But it kind of got me more into the Hourglass powder field. And I think I tried a lot more Hourglass products after that because I really liked the quality of their powders. A product I missed that this company doesn't exist anymore, and it was a small company to begin with. There was a company called Atelier, and what they did is they made primers. They made a lip primer, a face primer, and they also made an eyeshadow base. And their eyeshadow base was really good, and I really liked it. Before the NARS one, which I just finished this year, that was what I was using, and I really like it, and I do miss it. I actually have gone on to like look at it on the secondhand market from people who like hadn't opened theirs or just like floating around, and they exist, and I just like don't need it that bad. And like I'm romanticizing this product now, and it probably was very good. There's also there's so much makeup on the market. It's like I can find something comparable that works just as well. But I really liked that eyeshadow base. R.I.P. Oh, wow. I didn't remember buying this that year, but I think this was like when I was allowed to buy one beauty item on my trip to Chicago during my no-buy. And I bought the Gucci Beaute des Yeux palette. In my heart, like, I really appreciated that thing as an item. That was also one of like the first times where I just like kind of really super realized how much packaging at that time. I'm now shifting away from like being so into packaging right now, but it is part of the allure. Oh, the packaging was so pretty. And then the eyeshadows inside were pretty good. I liked a lot of them, but this is something that I was not realizing at the time, but I would realize in the next couple of years, that I just don't really care about eyeshadow palettes anymore. So I was never using it because like I was using single shadows or kind of moving into appreciating a one and done eyeshadow look, or I just like the colors in there were not very for me. Like I like moved away from wearing those kinds of colors. I never really thought about the palette as a thing to wear. I more so thought about it as just like a beautiful item, a very expensive eyeshadow palette that I just kind of like would hold sometimes and be like, wow, how beautiful. That's a purchase that I guess like if we really retrospectively like look within ourselves, me looking within myself, would say that it wasn't worth it and I shouldn't have bought it. I'm actually not sure if I was talking about specific shades or just this category in general. If I talk about Rituel de Fille highlighters, not weirdly enough, I like this formula a lot still to this day, but I didn't specifically mention any shades. But I have the Rare Light Luminizer from Andromeda's collab with Rituel de Fille from last year. We have Borealis on the cheek, and it's so slay. It's like this greenish highlighter. And I also have part of one of Andromeda's other collabs on my eyes today. It's a very Andromeda heavy. Well, when you pull out the green, we're getting into Andromeda territory and we have to respect them for it. Still really love both of these products. So the Metamorphic highlighter I would wear probably less. I don't have any of the Metamorphic highlighters left in my makeup collection anymore. Those are the ones that are more glittery, more sparkly. The Rare Light Luminizers give you this soft ethereal glow with just a little bit of a shift. Like you might not even be able to tell in this lighting that the shift is like a slate green. It's not a green that makes me look sickly or anything like that, and it will do that with other shifts like champagne to pink, you know, like ethereal purples and blues. Although I'm assuming that those colors don't sell as well because they don't seem to have as many of the more ethereal shades in stock other than like more purpley ones. But they used to have this shade called Laniege, which I'm wondering if was one of the ones I mentioned in there that was like a blue highlighter and it was so pretty. Anyway, still really love these. Definitely more fond of the Rare Light Luminizer now than the Metamorphic highlighter, but if a Metamorphic highlighter came out with like a really pretty shift that I was into, I could see myself grabbing it. Also earlier in the year, I did a Rituel de Fille video where I talked about my experience with every product I've tried from them, which is most of their catalog. Oh, wow. Okay, the Milk Makeup Flex Highlighter. So this would have been an old product at the time. Milk Makeup made these 3 powder highlighters, and they were so beautiful. There was the shade I had, which I think was called Lit, and there was like 2 deeper shades. And I would say Lit was even too deep for me, but like if I was like really gentle handed with it, oh, it's so beautiful. It was like a really intense highlighter, but they were really beautiful. And this is like the constant problem with Milk Makeup is like they don't know what's gonna stick and neither do we. And I don't think they like filter through products like at a rapid pace, but I would say they're one of the makeup brands that I feel like has the highest turnover for their products in their collection without doing a ton of limited edition stuff. But like these powder highlighters were really great. I think what happened was they maybe launched toward the end of like the highlighter mania, and they were much more suited for like the stronger highlights that people were wearing in the more mid 2010s as opposed to the later 2010s into the 2020s. So anyway, this was a beautiful product and it was really beautiful. And I kind of wish that they would make them again and have more colors. I have said this all year. I've been saying it for the last couple of years. Milk seems pretty directionless as a brand to me. They just kind of throw things at the wall and we see what sticks, and here we are, whatever they're doing now. Oh my God. Oh my God. I had listed 2 shades of Pat McGrath's Matte Trance formula, the shade Omi and the shade Full Blooded. Now I got this, I think, as a duo in holiday packaging. Like it came as a set of the 2, and it was like something that was marked on sale that I bought with my discount when I worked at Sephora. So it was like they were marked down to like $30, and I think, I don't know, I paid very little money for these 2 Pat McGrath lipsticks, which are very expensive lipsticks. I don't wear a lot of matte lipsticks anymore, and I don't think I would like this formula if I tried it again. Also, I don't know if have you guys seen the news that Pat McGrath is selling? Like the brand is selling. I don't know that they're going to have any buyers because the brand is stealing, and I think the general consensus of beauty people online that used to put up with their BS are no longer putting up with the brand's BS. So, that's interesting news. Anyway, I feel like these matte formulas were really thick, but they were quite pigmented and beautiful. Like, I always thought that they looked really good. I don't know that we've ever like talked about this, but like, I just feel like lip products are not full opacity products for many people anymore. Like in the last few years, it's been just like slightly tinted lip balms. I think a lot of people are more into lip glosses now. And I just feel like the fully opaque lip product is just not a thing we're really doing a ton of anymore. People, I think, use more impactful lip liners and then put like lip glosses on top. But I feel like a lot of our lip products are just sheer more these days. I mean, obviously there's still a place for fully pigmented lips, but I personally have moved away from wearing fully pigmented lips. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever have a Pat McGrath lipstick again, probably. And will we still have the brand Pat McGrath within a year's time? I don't know. The next thing was also Pat McGrath, and it was one of her lip glosses. And I mentioned the shade Flesh Fantasy, which I think I fully panned at some point along this journey. Pat McGrath lip glosses were my favorite lip glosses for quite some time. I really loved the Pat McGrath lip glosses. They were the best on my lips. They were the least likely to give me the white ring. Sometimes they would. I also feel like in the original launch of the lip glosses, and they've really slimmed down the pickings of the lip gloss shade offerings, but they had some really colorful lip glosses and that were really beautiful and sparkly, way more sparkly than any other lip glosses at the time. Flesh Fantasy was more of like a nudie shade, but the shade Paraphernalia was one of my favorite lip gloss shades. It was so good. I also had this like orangey one. Anyway, they were all very beautiful. If I'm going to pay that much for a lip gloss, I'm going to buy a Posh gloss from Victoria Beckham now. That is what I opted into, and that is something, and I do think now that I've had the Victoria Beckham lip gloss back in my life for a couple of weeks, it is my favorite lip gloss formula, and I'll stand by that. There's not a lot of shades and they're not very sparkly, but the formula itself, like I would buy a clear version of that. One time I got a clear version like as a gift with purchase, and it was like great. I loved it. I wore it all the time. The next product I'm like having vague memories of, it was the Charlotte Tilbury Jewel Lips in the shade Rose Jewel, which I think was part of the birthday gift either that year or the year before, and I finished the little lip gloss that was in it, and I think that was what I'm talking about. It was also very sparkly, and it was a very thick lip gloss, but the effect of it was like worth it. It felt like a lip gloss that was like made for kids. Like it was so thick and it had like this candy smell. That's what I remember of it. And it was just really sparkly. I love a sparkly lip to this day. Betel from Isamaya, the Mob Beauty lip glosses, all gorgeous, gorgeous products that I really love to this day. So I still am into a sparkle lip, but I don't think I really liked that Charlotte Tilbury formula enough to like buy the full size. Obviously, I never had the full size. I only ever had the mini that was in the birthday gift. Okay, the next thing I just mentioned is the Clionadh stained glass collection. At that time, I had most of it. Most of the stained glass collection, and I definitely bought it with some stimmy checks. And because it was COVID times, it took a long time for them to get me. If you've been here for a lot of the journey, there was a point where I knocked down my magnetic palette that held my stained glass shadows in it, and I had to repress them all. I think the video of me repressing them is on here. There's also a clip of me knocking them over and realizing what had happened. Anyway, I now have decluttered a lot of these, and the reason is I do think that the stained glass collection is still a very beautiful collection of eyeshadows, and the expansions on it have all been very beautiful. Clionadh makes very beautiful eyeshadows. That's not something that I'm here to argue. They're very beautiful. I just never wore them. There's something about an eyeshadow that's like in its own compact that I'm like very into, and like that's what I think of. Or a single cream product or a single potted thing, and that is like what I'm most attracted to eyeshadow wise. And I don't think they make single cases and sell them, but I definitely didn't need that many of those eyeshadows. I will also say, to my credit of me at that time, I was much more into much more colorful looks, and like the color was very severe at the time. So that makes a lot of sense that I was like very into these. But yeah, most of them are gone. If you watched my declutter from last month, I got rid of most of my Clionadh collection. I think a lot of it had like dissipated from even what I had then. Like, it's just like they've diminished over the years. And I still love their shadows and I still recommend their shadows. So it's not like I don't love these products anymore. But the way that I was consuming and talking about them at the time is not how I feel about them today. Oh, wow. Okay, the Natasha Denona Gold palette. I just decluttered that this year. I bought it because I watched Hannah Louise post and talk about it. Hannah talked about it so much, and then it got discontinued and there was like some final stocks of it remaining that I ended up buying. And I was much more into greens at the time. And I would say like the first year I had the gold palette, maybe the first 2 years I had the gold palette, I use it a ton. And it really taught me a lot about layering and texture and how to appreciate that. That was like my favorite part about that palette, because I find, and this is something that Natasha Denona had lost along the way with like some releases that happened after this palette got discontinued, is like texture is like part of the experience. And I don't think a lot of people sitting at home think about it, because I really didn't until I watched like Hannah talk about like layering eyeshadows. And now like layering eyeshadows is like a very common practice for me, especially if I don't like the finish of something, if I want to add something to, and like learning how products layer. Will they change the color of the thing underneath it? And there were like toppers in here and very shifty shades in here, and it was just a really beautiful palette. To this day, it is Natasha Denona's best palette that she's ever released. Then I talk about the Natasha Denona 28 pan palettes, which I had both of them, and those are things I depotted, and I think I still have some shades from one of them left after my declutter, but most of them are gone and they've kind of left my collection as singles. It's kind of a twofold thing. I really thought I was going to be a person who really loved making custom palettes and using them, and yeah, that was just kind of like where I thought I was headed as a makeup consumer and a makeup channel, and my preferences just changed. And I think that if I had started my channel in earnest like a year or two earlier, that's what it would have looked more like. For the first couple of years, I still think we would have ended up here, but as fast, I'm not sure. You know, like I don't know, like there would have been more time with like more colorful things. Anyway, and building my own palettes, but eyeshadow palettes are like the last thing to interest me now. The build your own system really works when you still have like a lot of craving for color stories. And if you want to have color stories in your collection that are different than from what you already own, that's a great way to explore and try to see if you have those colors. But yeah, I just don't do a lot of that. And that was primarily why I bought that. And I just like don't do that anymore. Some of the shadows that were in those palettes were very beautiful, and I still have them kicking in my collection. And then finally, the last thing I talk about is the Hindash Beautopsy palette, which I still have to this day. I've gutted it and I've depotted it. I'll show you what mine looks like now. I have the Beautopsy and the Monochromance palette depotted, and wow, the gradients are just so beautiful. I still use this palette all the time. This is like a regular, like it's a favorite forever for life because they are just so handy. Like taking them on trips and using them as both face and eyeshadows is very helpful. I still really love this product. These are so great. An incredible favorite, incredible pick. These are still relevant. And they've been through a lot of life with me, these beautiful shadows. But anyway, also, I guess something to note, Hindash, if you're watching, my palettes are old. Daddy? Daddy, help me. Anyway, those were my favorite products of 2021. Looking back at this list and talking about these products, I can really tell I'm at a bit of a crossroads. The complexion is more closer to what I do now and less of what I was doing earlier in 2021 and in 2020, where I was wearing a lot more full coverage. This is definitely a lot more like low coverage, just perfecting of the skin, things that are seemingly more appropriate for aging skin that maybe moves a little bit more. That's like kind of already started. The color preferences and where I was at in makeup, you can definitely tell I was like still into eyeshadow, still into like lots of color. And I can really see that here when that's like not as much what I'm into now, but like I have been trying to incorporate a little more color into the rotation in a way that I enjoy, and that has been very fun. Like a little bit of green on the eyes, but still doing it my way, you know? So I think this has been a very interesting thing. It's always fun to look back on favorites. So if you keep track, do you remember what you were loving in 2021 when it comes to makeup? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, and if you have the hype feature, hype if you must. That's gonna wrap it up for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember to follow your host and you'll find me, and I'll see you in a video very soon. Go forth, tits out.